20 years ago, Manchester City were known as the noisy neighbors. They weren't the team lifting trophies every season. They weren't the club attracting the world's biggest stars. In fact, many fans remember a time when City were bouncing between divisions, struggling with financial problems, and watching their greatest rivals dominate English football. Fast forward to today, and Manchester City have become one of the most successful clubs on the planet, worth billions of dollars and recognized in every corner of the world. So how did a club that spent decades in Manchester United's shadow build one of the greatest football empires in history? The answer goes far beyond money. It's a story of vision, patience, leadership, and one of the most ambitious business transformations modern sport has ever seen. At first glance, Manchester City's rise might seem like a simple tale of wealthy owners buying success, but that explanation barely scratches the surface. Behind every trophy is a carefully planned strategy involving infrastructure, talent development, global branding, and long-term thinking. This isn't just a story of a football club. It's the story of how a struggling sports organization reinvented itself into a worldwide business powerhouse. Manchester City's history stretches back to 1880, when the club was founded as St. Mark's before eventually becoming Manchester City in 1894. Throughout the 20th century, they experienced moments of glory, including league titles and domestic cups, but consistency remained elusive. While local rivals Manchester United became a global sporting phenomenon under Sir Alex Ferguson, City endured decades of instability. Relegations became painfully familiar. Financial uncertainty limited ambition. In 1999, the club even found itself playing in England's third tier, an unimaginable position for one of the country's historic clubs. Although promotion eventually followed, City were largely viewed as a respectable mid-table side capable of occasional surprises but rarely genuine title challenges. Everything changed on September 1, 2008. Just hours before the summer transfer window closed, Abu Dhabi United Group, led by Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed Al Nahyan, completed the purchase of Manchester City. Almost immediately, the football world took notice. The club announced the signing of Brazilian forward Robinho from Real Madrid in a deal that shocked Europe. To many observers, it looked like another billionaire entering football with limitless spending power. But behind the headlines was a far more ambitious vision. Instead of focusing only on expensive transfers, the new ownership planned to rebuild the entire organization from the ground up. They understood that sustained success required more than star players. It demanded elite facilities, experienced executives, modern scouting, youth development, and a business model capable of competing with the biggest clubs for decades rather than just a few seasons. The transformation didn't happen overnight. Early spending criticism attracted, and some transfers failed to deliver, but the club continued refining its approach. Executives such as Ferran Soriano and Chiki Behiristan, both previously successful at Barcelona, were recruited to oversee football operations with a clear long-term philosophy. Their goal wasn't simply to assemble talented individuals, it was to build a football identity. That philosophy reached its highest expression in 2016, when Pep Guardiola became manager. Guardiola wasn't hired just because he won trophies. He represented a style of football that aligned perfectly with the club's broader vision. Possession, intelligent movement, tactical flexibility, and constant innovation became the defining characteristics of Manchester City. At the same time, enormous investment flowed into infrastructure. The Etihad campus became one of the world's most advanced football facilities, integrating the first team, academy, training grounds, and community programs into one modern complex. Young players now had a clear pathway from academy football to the senior squad. Data analysis, sports science, nutrition, and performance technology became essential parts of daily operations. Success wasn't left to chance, it was engineered through careful planning. Yet perhaps the most remarkable achievement happened away from the football pitch. Manchester City evolved into the centerpiece of City Football Group, a global network of football clubs spanning multiple continents. Teams in countries including the United States, Australia, Japan, Spain, Italy, Brazil,
India, and Uruguay became part of a larger ecosystem that shared knowledge, scouting resources, coaching methods, and commercial opportunities. Rather than operating as a single football club, Manchester City became the flagship of an international sports organization. Commercial growth accelerated just as quickly. Major sponsorship agreements expanded revenue streams. Merchandise reached fans worldwide. International academies introduced young players to the city's playing philosophy while strengthening the club's global brand. Social media and digital content helped transform local supporters into a worldwide community of millions. The business was no longer dependent solely on matchday income. It had become a diversified global entertainment brand. Of course, Manchester City's rise has not come without controversy. The club has faced years of scrutiny regarding its finances, sponsorship arrangements, and compliance with financial fair play regulations. UEFA previously imposed sanctions that were later overturned by the Court of Arbitration of Sport, although a fine for limited procedural issues remained. Separately, the Premier League has charged the club with numerous alleged breaches of its financial rules dating back many years. Manchester City strongly denies wrongdoing and says it possesses comprehensive evidence supporting its position. Those proceedings remain ongoing, and no final judgment has been reached. For supporters, the club's success reflects exceptional leadership and investment. Critics argue that financial advantages have fundamentally reshaped competitive balance. Whatever one's opinion, the debate continues to influence discussions about football's future. On the pitch, however, the achievements are undeniable. Manchester City have won multiple Premier League titles, established records for points and victories, and completed historic domestic triumphs. In 2023, the club finally captured its first UEFA Champions League trophy, completing a remarkable continental journey and securing a famous continental treble. Financially, Manchester City now generates hundreds of millions of pounds in annual revenue and consistently ranks among the world's most valuable football clubs. What was once considered a mid-table team has become one of the defining institutions of modern sport. Perhaps the greatest lesson from Manchester City's journey has nothing to do with football itself. Manchester City's story will continue to spark debate for years to come. Some will admire the ambition,
Others will question the methods, but history rarely remembers organizations that play it safe. It remembers those that redefine what's possible. Manchester City didn't simply buy better players, they built an ecosystem, created a global brand, and reshaped expectations of what a football club could become. Whether you celebrate their success or challenge their legacy, one fact remains impossible to ignore. Manchester City have changed modern football forever, and their billion-dollar empire stands as one of the most extraordinary transformations the sporting world has ever witnessed.